December 20th. Please stand for pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Orr, roll call.
Mr. Casey? Present. Mr. Wyden?
Present.
Mr. Duffy? Present. Mr. Rush?
Here.
Mr. Peter?
Present.
Mr. Gillespie? Present. Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Mr. Sherry?
Here.
8 present.
Okay, we'll go into public comment. Jones, Borderland,
Hold on.
Conawanas. I think I'm getting that wrong. I don't know why.
How many minutes?
Oh, we have 4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay. Let me see if I can boil this down as an interested taxpayer on the hook. How many years has the district been spending more than it takes in revenue? Anybody?
7.
7, okay?
Excuse me, Mr. Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, it was the 2012 budget that required us to borrow. That was the first in a series of borrowing.
I think 11 we were negative.
2013.
And 11 you were negative?
When the pension demands start coming.
But I still don't.
Okay, it's been several years, all right? So next.
Excuse me, 1 minute, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, John. But could we give an accurate, I prefer to have our CFO give an accurate.
I'm not my 4 minutes.
Well, you'll get your 4 minutes.
We'll take it.
We won't take that
We'll
out.
take care of it.
2012.
That's what I thought.
When it started.
Okay. it's
Okay,
been
And for
several
the
years.
record, in 2011, we ended the year in a positive,
What was the number?
$1 million.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been several years. And so for 2018, we again are going to spend more than we're going to take in at this preliminary stage, correct?
That's what's proposed.
Okay, so how long before we're going to at least have a balanced budget, or God forbid, take in more than we spend? How many years down the road do you forecast that?
I can't.
Okay,
Well,
what's your,
would you let me finish? I can't forecast that. All we can do is make necessary recommendations is what needs
I
to be done.
understand.
Okay.
What is your total deficit, cumulatively from this year going into 2018? You have to add the 17 million to the 18 million?
It's not, first and foremost, you're comparing budget versus, you're comparing a budget deficit versus general fund balance deficit.
Okay,
The general fund balance deficit is 26 million.
okay,
If we spend more projected at the end of this year of 7, you get to 33.
all right.
That does not, the budget number that's 18 million is expense versus revenue.
Okay, my point is, you can't keep spending more than you take in year after year after year. Keep raising taxes on the general public, okay, which, the average salary in Scranton is $23,000 a year. You've got to expect that sooner or later, the state's going to come in and cut you off at the knees. And maybe they should. Now, I understand that there are individually excellent teachers in this district, just as there are excellent students in this district, okay? But as a district, your performance ain't that high. As you consider the budget, you've got to remember, just making the numbers crunch and come out favorably is not enough. You've got to successfully meet your mission, your mandate, and all it is to teach the children of Scranton. And if you look at the June study that the paper did, the 17th annual study where they looked at 37 school districts in northeastern Pennsylvania, you're one of 5 districts that came in with zeros for 17 standardized tests in the SATs. 0, missed the state average. 4 came up with 100%. They excelled in all the metrics. So as you try to massage the budget and make the numbers match, remember, there's no point in going through this shindig if you're not successfully teaching the children. You've got to get your performance metrics up as a district, okay? I'll happily pay the tax, but I want some return on my investment. And I don't want to wait another 5 or 7 or 10 years. Well, I'm going to ask the state to come in. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Case?
Good evening, board members. And just some numbers to put things into perspective. I offer it as looking at what's happening. Some of this you've heard before. Some of it's new because I just got the 2016 audit from your auditor, Supervisor. So looking at your revenues for the last 9 years, 104 million, 108, 111, 119, 120. From 11 to 12, it went down 3 million, moved to 117. 2013, 120, 14, 124, 15, 132, and then last year, from your audit, 146 million. I know there's likely loans in there to bring it to that number. But you know, it is an average increase of well over 3%. I'm looking at, prior to this year, it was 3.28, and I think with this year, it's up. So, I mean, it seems like, to me, the revenues that you have been steadily increasing, and we would hope that it would be able to cover your costs. A lot of the unusual increases in expenditures were outlined here tonight: healthcare, pension costs, the increase in pension costs, because you opted in the past to take the offer from the state not to have to pay into those pension at the rate you had been. I mentioned before, much of that money went to other places. And once again, I'll summarize transportation. 2.7 million in 2007, 3.1 million in 2008, 3.3, almost 3.4 million in 2009, 3.8 in 2010, 3.9 in 2011, 4.2 in 2012, 4.8 in 2013, 4.9 in 2014, 4.6 in 2015, and 4.7, that is from your audit from this year, in 2016, 4.7, almost $4.8 million. I was of the understanding that the various adjustments you made in bus runs, combining of routes, all of that kind of thing. I had heard at one point it was going to save us $1 million. I later heard that walk back to probably about $700,000 worth of savings. And looking at the last 3 years, it's 4.9, almost 5 million, 4.6, 4.7. I don't see where the savings has come. So anyway, that's a total increase of close to 80% over an 8-year period. I don't know what justifies an 80% increase, over 8 years. You're double-digit increases. I don't know how that happens. So I know that you're locked into a contract. You had an opportunity at one time to put it out for bid. You had voted to do that. You then wound up putting it out, or extending a contract, and you did it a year and a half early. I don't know what the reasoning was for doing that. I question why. I wonder if you might consider the possibility of bidding that contract again. I don't think your contract, as I read it, says that they have, those two vendors have the ability to exclude any other vendors or any other contractors from taking on the transportation needs of the students in the city of Scranton. I don't think it's an ironclad contract that forbids you from doing that. So I would ask you to consider that. That's all. Thanks.
Rosemary Bowen.
I'm going to stay seated since people are behind me. I don't want to obstruct their view. Good evening, directors. Thank you for this meeting tonight, and it has been very, very informative. There are a few things that come into my thoughts with sitting here this evening. One, the pension. Kevin alluded to this, and so I'm going to say it out loud. The legislature in the state of Pennsylvania gave the districts and itself, the state, a pass. Gave a pass. It didn't give a pass to the employees who pay into the pension. On the contrary, we have always contributed to our pensions at various amounts, every paycheck. But not the districts and not the state. Well, you know, that's analogous to going and charging and charging and charging on a Visa account and never paying the bill. That's what happened. And all of a sudden, the bill came due and nobody was ready to pay the bill. A few districts did set aside some funds, but even they are having difficulty right now. Well, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? It was a foolish idea when it passed in Harrisburg. It was a very, very foolish idea. But it passed, and districts took advantage of it and did not pay into the fund. But every single solitary employee in this district and every other district pays into that pension. And that's a contract between the employer and the employees. That's a sacred trust. Second thought, I have not heard once about our contributions to the NEIU or to the CTC. All kinds of monies were spent to renovate buildings. Staff at NEIU seems to be decreasing, but the bill isn't. So maybe it's time to sit down and find out what the givebacks are from the NEIU and CTC. People in those two institutions are not paying towards premium, but we do. In the Scranton School District, we do pay toward premium. And everybody seems to forget that. So we're listening to givebacks, percentages of givebacks, amounts of money that are perhaps coming through with PlanCom after some study. That's great. You're getting money back from the city of Scranton, mercantile money and business privilege taxes, almost $8 million. And that isn't going to stop because all these businesses are still paying. So funding is coming in. We have been shortchanged in the Scranton School District per pupil. We have. I don't know why it took this long to figure it out, but we have been getting robbed. And the state isn't a very good friend of ours right now, believe it or not. The legislature has really, really come down hard on public schools. They're not our friend at all. And it's hard to get anything through. It's hard to get anything across. I know because I sit with them a lot, I talk with them a lot, and it's not the best thing to do. It's not fun, I can tell you that. As far as the teaching staff in this district and the paraprofessional staff in this district, I don't know how you run a school district without teachers. I don't know how you do that, because I guess there wouldn't be a school district. Without a teacher in that classroom and without that paraprofessional support, there is no school, there is no learning. It's not happening. That's a very important issue here. Everybody seems to be dancing around that target. Well, we're the target. I cannot, with my union members, make up the deficit. If we didn't take salary for the next 3 years, it wouldn't take care of your deficit. It would not. And just like I said a moment ago, we paid toward premium, tomorrow we're going to sit down and hash out health care again. When I took this job, teachers were paying an exorbitant, not just teachers, all employees were paying exorbitant amounts of money to fund the health care. We never got that money back. And I can testify to the fact because in this very room, teacher upon teacher stood up and told the board at the time they could not afford to work in the Scranton School District. They left. You have a principal in this town right now who left this district to go elsewhere because he said he couldn't afford to pay the health care cost. It is bad. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that we fixed the health care cost and it's been fixed and pounded to death. This might interest you. We have teachers in this district and paraprofessionals who are dying. They're dying from cancer. Just about every single building, we have that. Every day I'm called on it, every day I'm asked for help on it, and every day I listen to those stories. You have cancer situations in this district right now that are very unusual forms of cancer. And in some buildings, 2 or 3 people have the exact form of cancer. They're getting transplants. They've been out of work. And it's brutal. But that's the reason we have health care. And that's the reason we pay for it. If we didn't want health care insurance, then we could all just die, and maybe that would solve the crisis. Apparently that's what the United States government wants to. Because they sure aren't around helping the working class people. People who go to work every day. Dr. Kirian suggested a little while ago that perhaps the people have to rethink taking days off. You don't have substitutes coming in. You know why your costs are up? Because people have to cover other people's classes. You had 5 teachers on a trip the other day, there was no coverage. 5 or 6 people out of Adams the other day, no coverage. There is no coverage. There are people are not getting prep periods to do their own prep, to plan for their own classes. You're paying Kelly $123.13. You're paying a sub $90.
And I thought, and I don't mean to interrupt, that by going with Kelly, that was gonna avoid that issue. But I guess that's not,
It has done anything but.
I thought by having Kelly, we were going to avoid.
Yep, you
Well,
are
we'll see
right.
when that study comes back to us.
There's
We'll
a
see.
shortage of subs in the whole area.
The whole
It's
region.
not just in Scranton. And what we pay for Kelly is they recruit, they train, they do the payroll taxes. We're paying for a service, so naturally we would pay a little more for that. But it's not just in Scranton where substitutes are scarce. It's around the whole area.
And so that brings up another topic. There's a 63, right now, 63% decline in teacher certification. Nobody's going into this business. We had a teacher the other day on the bus get attacked by a student. Choked, bit, scratched, had to go to the ER. Happens every day. When I called the teacher to see if she was all right, she said, you know, this happens. I said, she said, they gave me a tetanus shot at the hospital. I said, did they give you a hepatitis shot? Because all of our people should have that. But they don't. So every day that a teacher goes into a classroom or a paraprofessional, this is serious stuff. We don't take for granted what we do for a living. We don't cry about it, but fact is fact. Now, I listened to the woman just now speak regarding our performance. We have 2,000 special education children in the Scranton School District. Many of them have severe disabilities. But does anybody care about that at testing time? Of course not. Because everybody has to be tested. Even if you're in 5th grade and you are a 1st grade age mentally, or if your IQ is 40, or if your IQ is 160, it doesn't matter. Everybody takes the same test. To try and get the option not to have to take that test for special needs kids is like pulling teeth, because the state says, here's the percent, and that's all you can pull out. If you don't speak English in your 3rd year here, too bad for you, because you're going to take that test. Well, I want to see anybody go to another country in 3 years and take tests in any language. It just doesn't work. And another thing that the public just doesn't know about that test, it's not developmentally appropriate. What a 5th grade kid takes on a 5th grade assessment test in this state is analogous to what a kid studied in 10th grade. I can tell you that most of the people in this room couldn't pass the 8th grade test. Many people in this room couldn't pass the 5th. I know because I gave it. I know what it looks like. I know what it does to the kids. I know the trauma that sets in as soon as everybody gets started. And all we hear is, the test is coming, the test is coming, the test is coming. We know the test is coming. We give it. We give it. Now in Atlanta, where Dr. Kirian came from, they had cheating clubs. Why? Because everybody said you had to do better, you had to do better, you had to do better. And every single educator in this country knows, every classroom teacher knows, you can't get it out of every single child. They don't all have equal abilities. We know it, we recognize it, but nobody else does. And that's a shame on everyone. To tell a child with severe disabilities or moderate disability that that kid has to do the same as the kid next to them who might come from a good home, have all kinds of resources, have 140 IQ, that's not fair. But that's what we do in our country. That's what everybody's nuts over. Let's test. Well, you know what? I, for one, am sick and tired of people thinking that you could go into school and raise test scores just by clicking your fingers, because no, you can't. No, you cannot. And we are talking to the state of Pennsylvania about giving these tests, and we're trying to figure out ways to work on it. And then to brutalize the situation even further, we get our blasted evaluations based upon a kid's test score and the school number. We may never have even taught a kid, and we get evaluated. If a kid is on homebound and that kid's on my list, my evaluation comes off that kid's that kid that I never maybe even met in my whole life. So when everybody talks to teachers in this state or paraprofessionals in this state about what we do for a living and how easy it is and everybody can do it, bull. I want to see everybody do it. I want to see everybody go into a classroom. I want to see somebody else get told what they can do. I want to see somebody else choke or bit or kicked or peed on. I want to see that if everybody can do it. If our job is so simple, let's see everybody do it. Because I know it's not, and I know everybody can't, and I know everybody won't. Kelly can't get subs. 6 o'clock in the morning when that principal checks, the principal sees that they're going to have a sub in the building. 6:30, there's no sub because the person signs off, I'm not going to that school. Why would you go to a Scranton school and possibly get kicked or spit upon when you could go to another school in an affluent school district where that just doesn't happen because they don't have that child in the classroom up there? So all things are not created equal here in education, but we're sick and tired of getting the blame for it. So you know what? We'll cooperate with you. We'll sit tomorrow and listen to more insurance talk and more rates and more this and more drug cost and more this cost and more that cost. And we still won't be able to make up this hole. And everybody who can do a math problem should know that. Period. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman.
Okay, that's exhaust our list for the public speaking.
Bob, I didn't have a chance to sign it, could I just say something
Yeah.
quickly? We talked about the TANs during the earlier meeting, and
Could you
my
introduce
question
yourself,
is,
sir? Could you
I'm
introduce-
John Kirby, by the way.
Thank you.
I was just curious, if we operate on a calendar year budget in the Scranton School District.
Correct.
If we switch to a fiscal year budget, would there be any need to get TANs?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like if, because you
Your
said
tax revenue, you'd be.
comes in the spring.
Right, but if you went on a fiscal year, your tax revenue wouldn't come in until October. It's still a 3-month lag from the
Okay.
time you adopt taxes.
Would switching to a fiscal year budget,
Would not eliminate the TAN.
no, not, okay, we won't eliminate the TANs, would it help the district, like, you wouldn't have to plan so far out?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, like, if you were budgeting in, like, for, like, July 1st, when the school year starts in September, you might be able to see it, you're not looking so far down the road.
That's,
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, most districts in the state do that.
And
I
how
don't
many
know if
years
it would be beneficial.
How many years have we had contacts in Pittsburgh?
There's 2 districts in the state that still operate on the calendar year. There are 498 that don't. Pittsburgh and Scranton operate on the calendar year.
Right.
Moving to the fiscal year would be educationally and fiscally advantageous to this district. Planning becomes infinitely better, more accurate in terms of scheduling for your classrooms, et cetera, et cetera. You're doing it a few, like 8 to 10 weeks before the end of the fiscal period as opposed to 8 or 9 months. You're threading the needle.
Right.
How many years have you been?
I mean, what would it take to switch to that?
Well,
That's right.
some of the
There are
apprehension, the apprehension is, implications to
I
that.
think the apprehension is planning to budget for a year and a half the first year that it happens, you know, and going out even
That
further
would
than
be
a
a
half
tax
in a time like this. But I think it should definitely be advantageous.
first and foremost, we talked about implementing going into a fiscal year, and Dr. John R. Williams was superintendent of schools. The legal issue is levying taxes in what's considered one fiscal year. So if in fact, and PDE allowing us to either operate a 12-month or an 18-month budget, because you have a 6-month lag. At that point, the legality of when you levy taxes was not clear to PDE's attorneys. So in order to interpret the tax code of what you need to do, they weren't determined. So we couldn't operate 6 months without levying some type of tax. With Act 1, that was the Taxpayer Act, you could only go to a certain percentage. So now you'd have to double that percentage in order to do it twice in 1 year. So there's ramifications from PDE who tell us how to administer.
So once again, it seems like Harrisburg is putting up a hurdle that you can't do that.
If Harrisburg came back and said you adopt a 6-month budget and you levy half a tax, and then you go on a 12-month period, I mean, I think the recommendation of the board would have been, let's look at it and do it because we become uniform. But at any given point in time, that's never been the case.
How did 400 other districts manage that?
By the code. It's specifically enacted in the school code.
The other thing I had was, when Ms. Boland was talking about the testing, also too, is we're told when we have to give the test, the PSSAs, that the state sets that, okay? And I always, it just seems like a common sense, we're testing someone, I teach 7th grade, so I'm administering a 7th grade test in March or April, and then we have to still go teach. Like, it's 3/4 of the year over, and we're expecting kids to know 1 full year. Like, why are we giving it so early? And I know that is not our doing, we're just doing what we're told to do. But it seems like New York State and a lot of other states give their tests at the end of the year, the school year, or as close to it as possible. Where here in Pennsylvania, we don't. And that's wrong.
John, as a comment, it would almost seem that the people who designed this testing schedule
Designed it to fail.
designed it for failure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it looks to me.
And also too, on the subject of the substitutes, I substituted for 2.5 years. And when I was employed by a school district, when the district ran their own subs, I accumulated credit towards PSERS, which we talked about earlier, which now someone working for Kelly Services does not. Okay, so I mean, I got almost a 1-year credit for 2.5 years because there were some long-term subs in there. So, I mean, I talked to some of the subs that come in our building and they're like, yeah, it stinks, I don't even get credit anymore for this. You know, so that may be an impediment to, attracting subs. I don't know. You know, just some thoughts and. just wanted to
Mr.
put it out
Gaynor,
there.
for, when we use Kelly Services, we do not use them for the long-term subs, is that correct?
That's correct. Kelly's just used for day-to-day.
Right.
Right, so
Yeah.
that.
But even day to day, most of that was, I did accumulate time and paid in. So, I mean, once you had over so many days, it counted.
Which would drive our costs up.
It actually could drive them down if you're not
But
trying to cover the teachers all the time.
This is a separate issue. When we went to Kelly Services, all of most of the districts in the area have gone to Kelly. So all we noticed that with the new Act 168, that you apply to a district, you have to have a clearance from a district you worked at. All of our subs were signing up with other districts. If we didn't get into Kelly Services, we would have 0 subs.
You essentially have 0 subs.
As Mrs. Wall said, 63% decline in certifications. People aren't going into teaching.
If we paid the subs what we're paying Kelly, we'd attract a lot more teachers. There would be no problem with substitutes.
And that's wishful thinking.
And just an aside, a lot of retired teachers would like to sub, but they won't, because they're not gonna go through Kelly and be trained, they're not gonna do it. The extended coaching time, but that's just. That's it.
We can start, I guess, on the resolutions, correct?
Ms. Orr, do you have a resolution for B3, the plan con?
I do not have the Plain County K resolution. Was it provided in the resolution?
Yeah, did
I don't-
was that submitted?
I don't know what counts for.
Mr. President, we're about to move forward to the resolutions, however, there's a little bit of an issue with B3. Wondering if maybe you have a copy of that. I know it's on the,
Jen, do we have a copy of the D3?
That was not provided.
Authorized Plain County K. Doctor?
I have not been provided that either. I thought that was coming from
Okay, I-
Mr. Judge to the finance office.
How can we vote on something that we don't even have? Okay, read. So I asked that maybe we remove B3 from the agenda. I entertain a motion that remove that.
Yeah, but no choice, right? I'd like to make a motion to remove.
Second.
Here in a second on the question.
Can we do that before roll call? Is that going to, Mr. Sunday, is that going to,
We have roll call. Okay, we have roll call.
I had seen the email, I was out on Friday, I had seen the email that they were submitting Plan Con.
without us passing this, is this gonna affect that timeline?
Well, yeah, I believe so, but I'm going to say this based on what I've heard. I already heard that Mr. Judge already submitted something on Friday.
Well, let me ask you a question. We've done this in the past. Can Mr. Lenora put together a quick resolution?
That, I would just say that that based upon what Mr. Judge had said, that, that you authorized the submission of the Plan Con K that was already communicated to the state. I think that would cover what you want to do.
All right. I'm good with that. Mr.
Okay.
Warren, would that be all right?
You want to vote?
Well, we have a motion and a second to remove it, so maybe we vote the motion
Down.
and then put the amendments in.
On the we could, on the question, we could motion to table.
Motion table.
Would that help? Motion to table.
I think the idea is we just,
table them,
no, we
we
missed out on
vote
it.
tonight.
On the motion to pull, motion to table on the motion,
I got you.
all right?
Motion to table on the motion to pull, and then we're still voting on B3.
Right,
As
exactly.
as presented.
Right.
John, is that legal?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to table the motion to pull resolution B3.
Second.
Second, you're in the second under the question?
Mr. Menor, are we all right to proceed with passing B3?
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Delay?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Okay. Now we'll entertain a motion to pass. Okay, no. Okay, we're gonna go back to B1. Then we'll, okay.
Right?
Oh,
Yep.
what Mr. Schuster presented as the sheriff. You might want to say, I guess, Mr.
He was talking to me, so I missed.
Oh, okay. Did he give you something to present as a?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna move first with the
B1.
with resolution B1. To the members of the board of directors of the city of Scranton, the Budget and Finance Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas the Public School Code of 1949, as amended, requires the formation and approval of the preliminary budget. And whereas the obligation for approval of the above is placed upon the school board based upon information exchanged between the administration and the school board. And whereas the board of directors of the school district of the city of Scranton is hereby in position to carry out its legal obligation. Now therefore be it resolved that the preliminary budget as attached for the year 2018 is hereby introduced for consideration by the Scranton School Board in order that the same or any amendments thereunto may be approval in accordance with law. Be it further resolved that copies of the preliminary budget as adopted may be available for the public inspection through the Office of the Secretary of the School Board and the Board of School Directors. Said officer shall advertise the action hereby taken in accordance with law and be subjected to the approval of all documentation by the district solicitor. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
You're in a second. Under the question? Under the question, I see a lot of holes in this budget, this tentative budget, that we talked about tonight on some of the revenue that is not in place yet. I wish that we had some more budget and finance meetings. I believe this is the first budget and finance meeting. I remember over my 8 years here, that we've had, from August till now, we have probably 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night here going over its budget. I think there's a lot of things that's in this budget and negotiations between the SFT, between the other unions, between administration, that can have a significant reduction in the amount of taxes that we're intending to put on the burden on the taxpayer again. Because we keep on going back to taxpayer, unfortunately, because we're not getting the revenue from the state. We have a population of students that's this high. We have a revenue, it's this low, okay? If any one of us looked at the annual report of the real estate reports, it shows people are leaving the city by the minute. Businesses are leaving this city by the minute. Tax-paying people that own businesses, that own houses. We can raise the taxes, ladies and gentlemen, 1,000%. But if you're losing the revenue here from those people leaving the city now, we're going to become a ghost town. And if we become a ghost town, you can raise taxes all you want, you're not going to get them. We have children that we educate, the lower income children, that we're supposed to be getting subsidized by the state and by the federal government. We're not. We're not. And I understand, I very much see the point that why we have to raise taxes to get under the debt that we're in. But I just think there's a lot more things we've could have done in the last 3-4 months to kind of close the gaps of where the negotiations could have been, the savings could have been, and with that, I am going to be voting no on the budget tonight. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Lush?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
No.
Seven affirmative, one negative, motion passes.
The members of the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Scranton, the Budget and Finance Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas there will be a capital working deficit in the beginning of the year 2018, and whereas it is necessary to borrow funds to meet said deficit in the first part of the year 2018 until revenues are generated, and whereas it is the desire of the Board to borrow said funds through the use of the tax revenue anticipation notes, and whereas it is the desire of the Board of Directors to seek bids from local lending institutions for the first tax anticipation note of the year 2018. Now therefore, be it ratified and resolved as follows. The business office of the Scranton School District is authorized to advertise for bids from local lending institutions in the Scranton area for the first tax revenue anticipation note for the year 2018, respectively submitted.
Second.
Any second, under question? Roll call?
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Lush?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Eight affirmative.
To the members of the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Scranton, whereas the Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Scranton wishes to have CaseCon Capital apply for PlanCon K reimbursement, respectfully submit.
Second. Second, under question?
Yes.
Roll call?
Mr. Lush?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Eight affirmative.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Is that N1?
Yes.
And one is special education.
And one, the members of the Board of Directors, the Superintendent and Special Education Committee hereby recommended the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas the school district of the City of Scranton is subjected to administration proceedings and civil suits within the appropriateness of the student special education programs has been challenged, where suits have been filed in the matters of KR ODR number 19378-16-17, SL ODR number 19415-16-17, DM and NJ. And whereas the parties have reached a settlement agreement in this matter upon the terms and conditions previously provided for your consideration. Therefore, be it resolved that the settlement as indicated above be approved upon the terms and conditions as described. And the superintendent or director of special education are hereby authorized to execute any or all documents necessary to consummate the matter. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
Here in a second, under the question?
I have a quick question. Solicitor Lenora, is this about money or is it?
Pardon me?
Is this settlement, you don't have to speak to it, but is this monetary? Or is this requiring us to provide some type of
One
employee?
is placement, one is monetary. And Mr. McAndrew, I didn't handle any of the claims. Per the recommendation of PFM, it's handled by Special Ed Council. I did ask for summaries before the meeting. I did not receive them. You notice I was checking my email earlier, so I was hoping I would have those summaries. But my understanding is one is a placement from one school to another at the intermediate level, and one involved compensatory education for an improper IEP, lack of progress monitoring, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Is this 4 separate suits or is this 2?
There are, I believe there are 2 ODRs and 2 others that were not filed, and some involve placement and some involve money.
Okay. What's the difference with the ODRs? Maybe
It
that's
just, sometimes they get settled prior to filing an ODR complaint, so they don't get a number. And if you don't have a number, the only thing you can do is an initial. So sometimes it's as simple as correcting an IEP, for example, or putting a program in place.
So 2 of these may be just
Correct.
adjusting an IEP.
One is definitely placement.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we put a process into place now that we have an outside attorney looking at all these special ed cases, that they come through the superintendent before being presented to the board. Because I haven't seen these.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
No, we gotta vote.
Vote on this.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote.
Is this something you feel should be covered in a committee meeting or reviewed first before we vote on it?
Well,
I should be aware of what I would be presenting to the board. Usually, you know, what comes to you should come through me from the committee meeting.
if the special education.
I'll second.
We
I have a
have,
motion on table and a second. The question?
Under the question, I brought that up just because of the fact that if she doesn't feel comfortable because she hasn't seen it, I don't think we should be voting on it. I mean.
But I believe some of this we had discussed, correct?
Yeah, if Ms. Cartegna was here, she could explain it because she sat through the resolution session, and quite frankly, I wasn't there. You know, so I do have some familiarity with them, but not enough, and I asked for some, which I didn't get.
I think it's a fair idea, being that Mr. Lenore wasn't there, Dr. Kearing wasn't apprised of it.
But that can affect something, and, right? That's gonna affect
Well, it could.
It is, right.
It could, I don't think.
something we had discussed.
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. Casey. Some of us, the boards, I've seen some of them, some I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
So how can we vote on something tonight that we don't even see?
I will make certain that the summaries are provided by council for the board and your review.
So we have a motion as the table. Anything on the question? Roll call.
She should.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Put her,
Mrs. Oleski?
give her that direct.
I mean, I was under the assumption some of this we had discussed, and that the importance of this moving forward with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be voting no, because I thought that was the purpose of having to do that this evening. So I will be voting no.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Dwight?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Lush?
yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Only because I haven't seen it. Yes.
7 affirmative.
Part of it, yes, but some of it we did. It should have been separated.
Motion separated.
It should have been separated.
So yes. We have, before we adjourn, we want to have a moment of silence for people that passed on in our district and a principal's wife, Katie Gilroy, and Deborah Rokita, and Joe Caputo. We have a moment of silence for those people, please. Okay, with that, I'll entertain the motion for
Can I ask
adjournment.
you a quick question?
Sure.
I received a letter it's from an employee that, in the district, whose sibling is struggling with stage 4 cancer, and they're having a fundraiser. He asked if I would be able to read this at the meeting. With your permission, I will do so. Okay, Paul Morgan is battling stage 4 kidney cancer. His family and friends have organized a fundraiser for him. He's the father of Tracy Pondbarger, who's a West Scranton Intermediate teacher. Brother George Morgan is a maintenance employee in the district. Brother-in-law Mary Ellen Morgan, West Scranton Intermediate School. Uncle Colleen McCloskey, I'm just reading what I have here. Nichols Plaza. Uncle Matt Michaels, Trips Park Elementary. All monies will be used to help defray medical expenses. The fundraiser will be held at St. Mary's Center, Scranton, Pennsylvania, on December 2nd, which is a Saturday, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Cost will be $20 a person. There are advanced ticket sales, or you can buy them at the door. There'll be refreshments and light fare. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion granted. Adjourned.